Hello, everybody. Good to be here back in Morocco. I was here a month ago as well for another meetup. Loved it. So first of all, you might think, hey, who is this dude? Well, I'm Elian. I'm the lead developer relations at React Bricks currently. I'm an Astro maintainer, which is a JavaScript framework. I work with the BGS team, so React Africa tomorrow. I don't know who won the ticket. Don't know who it is, but I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. We're going to have a lot of fun, but I also work with React Brussels and React Paris and a couple of others. I have my own meetups in Ghent. That's why I'm very invested in the open source community and in most of all, the developer and meetup community. I love it. If you take any pictures, please do, but share them with me and with everybody here with @Elian Codes, which is my name on every social platform. So if you want to follow me, do it there. So over the past year, I've done a lot of things. I almost took 20, well, not 20. I did, I think, 52 flights. So almost, if we compare that, like almost 20 to 25 talks at different places, different countries and everything. And I gave all my talks on very serious topics. For instance, like accessibility, performance, all of very serious topics, especially when I was working for Astra. I did a lot of Astra talks. And then suddenly I was laid off, like affected by layoffs. I hope you haven't been there, but it happens. And then suddenly my world kind of fell down and I was like, why have I been so serious about this? Like they can fire me and now I have no job and nothing to talk about. So then this idea started growing in my head, like I have so much fun, or I had so much fun in my talks and in my developer road, let's say. Why shouldn't I just exploit that and have a lot of fun on stage? So that's what I'm going to do today, basically. Give a talk that fits my personality, being very joyful and playful, just like I am. And one of the things that I always did when I was a kid, which I think about all the time, is that there is a lot of weird websites out there, and I love it. For instance, whenever I was a little boy, I still remember me sitting in the classroom, like playing on computers. I already had internet, I'm not that old. And I was playing around on the internet and I can imagine some old websites that was a lot of fun. Does anybody recognize this website? If you don't, no worries. You do? Awesome. Well, exactly. This is basically a useless website generator. So you click on the button and it takes you to a random useless website. And that's what sparked a lot of joy within me for the web. Like, why do I love the web? Because it can be so weird, like especially this website. Who knows that website? Yeah, I see someone laughing, two people laughing. That's that website. I'll show it for the people that actually don't know it. It's called, let me quickly open my browser here. I totally am not prepared for that. I'll do that in a second. Internet, I just will take my phone, that will work. Yeah, very well prepared. Hello. Is there Wi-Fi? I thought I would be able to tether from my phone, but I don't. Which one? Which one?
Read this one.
This one? Red?
Yes.
That's the one?
1 to 9.
What's the 1 to 9? Very secure.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. That's all I need. It's called EelSlap, that website. So basically what you do, yeah, you already saw it. So basically what happens is, it's with JavaScript, it tracks your mouse movements. And that's not hard to do. Like, we all know that code. It's super simple. And what it does is basically every time you hover over the image, it will progress one frame in a GIF, basically. So what I can do now is I can slap the guy with an eel. And that's the fun, and that's the whole website. That's basically all it does. And you can keep doing that. And it's a lot of fun. And this is what I was doing like constantly as a little boy while I had to take classes and everything. I was just in my class doing this. And I loved it. And that, to bring back to an actual topic, let me quickly get up my slides again. There we go. It's amazing. So when I started coding JavaScript, I discovered that the web is actually very versatile. Like, you have JavaScript and you can access everything. You can do a lot with the browser. But the thing is, we don't know a lot of that weird stuff and actually how well baked into our browsers it is. And that's what I'm here to show you today. So who uses Arc browser, the browser that you just saw? See, a couple of people. Do you know that it actually injects CSS into every website? You do. That's perfect. Not a lot of people know. So I'll show you how that works. And the cool thing about it, that's no JavaScript, nothing. That's all in your browser. Just because you use one specific browser, every website can look different to you, which is actually a pretty weird concept if you think about it. Or is it maybe a really good concept because we can personalize the web for everyone? Maybe you like dark colors and he likes sharp colors, or maybe a more contrasty web. Well, now we can personalize every website. And I'll show you how to do it, because in this case, it's super easy and it's actually nothing special. So I'm going to just open my dev server here. I have a couple of demos prepared for y'all. So I'll make it a little bit bigger. But you see Arc here. And you see that on this web page, it's kind of brown, maybe orange-ish. But that's actually my browser that's defining what color that should be. Because if I open that same page in Safari, which is, of course, another browser that we all know, and I put in that same one, it's just black and white. Now, how is that possible? Well, it's super easy in code. So if I open up that code, I'm going to hide a couple of things here, put it a little bit bigger. Is this visible for y'all? Big enough? Perfect. So now you can see that actually it just displays the word arc. That's the only HTML I'm injecting. Everything else is just CSS. And what I'm doing is basically the background color is your arc palette background. And if you don't find that variable in your CSS, fall back to black. Same thing for your text, but then in white. And the cool thing is, sure, but now I have these colors. But what is actually cool about those colors is that it's a variable. We can manipulate variables real time in CSS because it's just CSS. It's values. So if I go to here and I just edit my theme colors, now I can just slide around and my website changes with it. Is this a special use case? Yes, it is. Is it very useful? No, it is not. Is it cool? Yes, that it is. And that's all we need sometimes for the web, just to make it fun. So the thing is, this was just CSS. And CSS is one cool trick. But what about JavaScript? Like the most versatile language, well, we typically call it on earth. It not necessarily is that, but still, you know JavaScript. Probably all of you do. Well, there is JavaScript in PlayStations. There is JavaScript in VR glasses. There is JavaScript basically running on chairs and fridges now. And it's true. It really does. So let's take a look at some APIs that you probably don't know and are in the browser. For instance, the battery status API. Who has ever heard of this API? 1, 2, 3. Not a lot of people. And it actually exists. What it does, this code doesn't really matter. I'll show you in an example in a couple of minutes. But what it actually does is it basically it bubbles up your battery status to the browser. And we'll take a look at it. I'll show you how it works. This is the chart for anybody interested. It doesn't work in Firefox. And actually, there is a very good reason. They don't do it because they think it's a security hazard. And I'll explain why in a couple of minutes. But first, I'm going to show you the code so you're working with me on why it can or can't be useful. Because, oh, this is, by the way, a very good thing maybe to explain first. I'm going to misuse all of these APIs. I'm really going to do fucked up shit with it. Because that's the only way of showing how an API can be misused or used in a good way. So if I open up, I have a file here, battery.html. And same as before, there is just very simple HTML. In this case, it's a body, it's a div, a title, whatever. So if I go to that same web page, what will happen? So battery. This is a fading page. That's what it says. This page will disappear as your battery drains. The battery is now 100%. What happens if I unplug, and that's why I asked for a plug here. I'm going to unplug my card, my thing here. Oh, suddenly we have a red page. What's happening there under the hood? Basically, it's reading, hey, is your battery charging or isn't it? Because in the case that it isn't, change the variable to red. And if it is charging, listen to that event and then change it to green again. And in code, it's actually really easy. Because what you can do, I have no React, nothing. I'm not even using TypeScript. I'm just using plain vanilla JavaScript in an HTML file to show you the power of actual browser APIs. So what happens here, I'm just listening for the DOM content loaded. Very simple. I have a battery text, which is basically the dot level, which is that empty thing here. And then I will set in the navigator here, get battery. That's literally a function you can call, get battery. And then you have the battery, and then you can read out, hey, battery.level. And that gives you a percentage, like 0.1, which is 10%, 0.34, 35%. It's very easy. And you can just use that. And for instance, in this case, you didn't see it because my battery was charged because I was a little bit prepared for this talk. But actually, this page will be 0% visible or will be 100% visible depending on your battery. So right now, it's 100% visible. But if I unplug it and we'll look back at the end of my talk, this page might have faded a little bit because it fades because actually, whenever the battery goes 1% down or up, it will change a variable that will change the body opacity. And that's a very stupid way of using it, but it's actually really interesting. Because why am I telling you this? What if you're an e-commerce store and you want to sell something and you see, hey, this person has only 5% left of battery. What if we try to push him a little bit more because this deal will expire whenever your battery will run out? Then suddenly you feel way more pressured into buying that product. Is that ethical? Maybe no. Is it usable? Yeah, sure. There is also good use cases for sure. I mean, like for instance, hey, maybe you have a desktop product. Like we all use PWAs now as more desktop programs. And you want to say, hey, your battery is almost running out. Maybe plug in or maybe whatever. Maybe there's something wrong with your battery. You can let them know via the web browser API. It's pretty interesting. I'm working for React Breaks right now. And we actually put it in our CMS. It's a very big CMS. It's getting used by large companies that don't refresh pages in 12 hours. Well, maybe we want to say, hey, you only have X% of your battery left. Maybe you want to just, hey, save that page before your battery might run out because otherwise you'll lose everything. Stuff like that. So is it useful? Sure, kinda, not always. But that's, of course, for you to decide. So is it useful? Kinda. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see in 5 years. Web HID. Who has heard of this? Another API. No one? Really? This is one of the more accessible APIs, actually. No worries if you never have heard of it. That's what happens with web APIs. So basically what it lets you do, it's a human interface device. What it lets you do is connect to USB devices. And that's actually the thing you see here. It's an audio interface. That doesn't matter for now. All of this doesn't matter for now. I'll come back to that. But what this thing does is actually, it connects over USB-C. So you see a USB-C cable going there. I know people in the back, I'll show it with the other demo I have going. It's basically connected to USB-C. And what it does is it exposes that, like devices for each device, log that device, and you can connect to the device and do things with the device. That's actually almost everywhere available, unless on mobiles, because mobile, of course, isn't that accessible for USB devices. We all know that. It's all, of course, except Firefox, sorry. Is it useful? Well, we're going to take a look at it. So what have I done? I have, of course, another one here. So web HID, same idea as before, connect the device, and that's going to trigger a couple of actions. No real, well, there is no frameworks here, so the code is a little bit fucked, but that's totally fine because I'm still showing the power of how it should be. So web HID. Let's check. So what we can see, web HID, very big in large. It doesn't show that here on the page. Why? Well, we have to connect the device, and then you see Volt2, which is this thing. It's called a Volt2 audio interface. So I'm going to connect to it, and now I'm connected. And now I can actually press physical buttons on this thing, and suddenly my website will change colors. It's the same thing as before. Like I'm using it for stupid things. Like for instance, now it's disappeared because none of my buttons is on. These are on-off toggle switches. So what I actually do is, with this one, I control my green value. With this one, I can control my red value. And with this one, I can control my blue value, RGBA. We all know it. So with this one, I can control my opacity, so it doesn't happen. So now I can basically try to rebuild colors with just using web HID. And it's just physical buttons. Is this a useful example? No, of course not. I'm misusing it intentionally because it's a lot of fun. Let me get my slides up again. I pressed the wrong button and now it's downloading one of my other slides. That's not what I want. I'll show it here then again. Well, let's take a look at the code. So what it actually does, we see the register button here. So what it does, you have register numbers. That's just because it all communicates in registers. It's hexadecimal numbers and everything. I'm not going to show you how to translate that because that's not what it's about. It's about that actually it's pretty easy to navigate this. So basically, you just add an event listener where you can click on it, you fetch the devices from the browser API, you tell which one to connect to, and then you say, hey, on input, do something. And in this case, I alter values. And I'll show you how that works, because it's basically just device, take the first device, say the device is connected, blah, 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 disable the button, and then just say connect device, blah, 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 device on input report. And then on each input, I'll take the event, which I'm emitting from this device, over USB to the web, well, to the browser, and then see, oh, this is a 1, which is an input. Then I'll calculate the button. This calculate button, that's what I was telling you about, like that's translating and everything. How that works is a little bit different. So you have register numbers, you have old register numbers, then you compare the two, then you know which button is pressed and everything. But basically, in a sense, what it does is it sets values. So you see here at the top, if I go back, RGBA. These are the starting values. So in the beginning, we know the text is white. We saw web HID in white. And of course, your opacity is 1. And then if you go down, now you can see that suddenly it will randomize numbers. So every time I click it, it will just give a random value between 0 and 255, I think, is the RGBA values. It will give a value like that, which I have, yeah, here. So it's super simple code. And then you just say document.document element style, set the property of that value to RGBA. And then you just say in your button somewhere, your variable is that color. And that's how easy this gets. Well, is it useful? In this case, no, it's not. But one thing that is very useful is, of course, you can actually attach like PlayStation controllers to websites, and you can attach maybe accessible devices, like maybe somebody that doesn't have hands like we have, or maybe not 10 fingers. Then suddenly they can access real hardware devices and control the internet or the websites through those devices. So that's useful. That's useful for sure. And then Web MIDI. Who has heard about Web MIDI? Oh, a couple of people. Oh, that's cool. Who has heard about MIDI in general? A little bit more people. Okay, that's cool. So MIDI is a protocol for sending notes, basically. Sending and receiving notes over a connection, typically a MIDI connection. For those who might know me a little bit better, like basically Matthäus, and that's fine. I have been in music for a long time. I've been DJing for more than 12 years, which is half of my life. Poor you, old people. I did a lot of DJ gigs, and that was a lot of fun, but I wanted to like experiment a little bit more. So I was already working in tech, and as you can see here, I'm spinning vinyl discs. And vinyl I loved so much more, and why? Well, I was already working in tech, and I was working on my computer all the time. So when I came home and I wanted to practice my hobby, I didn't want to still be in front of a screen again. I was bored of screens. I kind of saw screens already for 10 hours a day. Well, maybe then if I do 4 hours of DJing wherever, let's do it analog. And I loved it. And I wanted more. So I bought a guitar. And for the people who actually have a guitar, they will probably understand me. I bought another one. And then I bought another one. And then I did another one. And that's it, basically, well, for guitars. I wanted more. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more analog stuff. So what I did, I bought 2 groove boxes. These are TD3, which is the basic bass line. It's a very Belgian sound. I'm Belgian, so this is a very techno-Belgian device, the Belgian smiley. Doesn't matter too much. I didn't brought those with me because of other reasons, but and the RD6. So I had 2 devices. I could make a couple of cool things with it. But same as with guitars, you buy another one and another one. I had a lot of fun. My apartment kind of started to turn into a music studio more and more. And then I bought more gear. And long story short, now I have to move because my apartment is kind of getting too small. I have quite a lot of gear. And I brought a couple of those devices with me, actually only these 2. Which is my smallest devices, and since I have to travel a lot, it's easier to bring smaller devices. But there is no screen, that's my main thing. There is just a synchronized clock. And the clock is what controls MIDI. It sends a note and on a pace. That's basically what we're doing. So MIDI is that protocol that we're using. And actually, it exists in the browser as well. And that's the part where I was like, whoa, why the fuck would somebody want that? And actually, it's pretty cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. This is how you basically would get an input device or an output device. So this is the interface between, so it basically can translate MIDI to actual receivable notes from my computer. But the protocol stays the same, and you can always hook into that. It's actually almost available everywhere except for Safari. And we're going to check if it's useful. Of course, it's useful in some ways. It's very misusable in other ways. That's, of course, what we're going to take a look at. But the code, I can say, it's kind of, it's hard. But that's fine. So what are you seeing here? We see a channel, because MIDI has 16 channels. And you can send a lot of notes on those 16 channels. I'm only going to use 6 today. 5 on this one and 1 on this one. And I'll show you why in a little bit. Then you can see I have a rig dance there. If you are a little bit of an internet meme troll, you will understand what that is. I'll show you in a minute as well. And basically the code is not interesting for now. We'll take a look at that in a couple of seconds. But what I want to show you is, what if we go to Web MIDI? So that's this page. This is my music box page. You already start to see what I'm doing. So if I connect my Volt here, and I'm going to put my sound off for that. For most of this, let me quickly change some things here. What happens is, I was talking to you about the clock. The clock is the most important thing in MIDI because that syncs all of your devices. Like if you saw the picture that I showed you earlier of my studio, that all runs on one clock. And that one clock is distributed by one device. But what I can do with that clock is actually I can read it out and I can define the speed. And what I can do now, I'm playing notes here. The colors are not important, but you can see that I can stop and play. Actually, I don't know why the colors are changing. That shouldn't be the case, but that's probably my fault. It is. Yes, I'm going to quickly reload. Okay. And now I should be able, yeah, that's basically it. So what you can see is the clock comes in. And now I can stop and start. And that's controlling a video, an MP4, like not a GIF, an MP4, on a website, whatever website that might be. How that works, it's pretty easy because we actually already have those devices, so we're not going to care too much about that. The thing is, we already know that a 250 and a 252 means clock starts, clock stops. So what I do is, hey, if you get a note and the note is a 250, or the code of the note is a 250, start playing. And I'll open my, my console here so you can read a little bit with me. That should be readable enough for you all, right? Does it need to be bigger? Okay, so I'm going to connect to device. You can see connecting to device, the whole device. You see it's a JavaScript object. And now when I start playing, you can see that it says, hey, 250, make rig dance. And then I think below it, it says 252, stop rig dance. That's what it does. Now the whole cool thing is, what if we start to connecting colors with sound? Then suddenly you have an interactive website that responds to the sounds in a way. So what I'm going to try to do is build some music with y'all that actually will respond to my website. So what I'm going to try, let's see if my full setup still works here. Okay, so what should happen is this one is channel 10. Channel 10 will always be blue. But the thing is that, I don't know why that is happening, but I think there is some kind of missed circuit, but that's my fault. But if it actually is playing somewhere, okay, I'll start just on this side then. This is just a simple hi-hat. I'll put it somewhat louder. So now, if I click one, it just shows a color because the channel is 3. And 3 divided by 60 minus that, I do a calculation basically to define the color. In HSL, which is a CSS value for hue, saturation and luminance, I think, which is a little bit different than RGBA because RGBA is a little bit more limited in that sense. It's basically a circle of colors, and I can define the gradations and everything. But I have defined a couple of different colors. So when I play this one, it's apparently purple. When I play this one, it's bluish, and I think here, I don't know if that's the sound that I want, but I have some sounds here that it's pretty cool. Let me try to find it for you all. Okay, let's see what I can get going. So I'm going to turn off all sounds of this panel, and I'm going to build a sound on this one. Okay, we can work with that. So if I put on a sequencer, I don't know if anybody knows what a sequencer is. It's basically a sequence of notes that I can define over MIDI. So I can play it on the keyboard, and the thing is that in this case, that's why I brought two of my keyboards, this one doesn't have the velocity. Velocity is how hard you press notes. You see, if you play a piano, you might not play every note as hard as the other ones. This one does that, this one doesn't. So if I press a button here, it will always be 100%. That's why I have this one. So now we can see that there is actually color shifting happening. And the color shift comes from the velocity of the thing. So let me try to find a fun sound for us. Maybe we should do, let's see what happens. I can work with that, but that's a little bit weird. Okay, a little bit ravey. So what happens if we try to layer things? And then you start to have sound. See the colors changing? And then we make it Belgian. Cool, right? I might have said, if you have epilepsy, you might have left the room. I forgot about that. So this is what you can do with just controlling web MIDI. Is it useful? Is it fun? Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And doesn't fun define usefulness for us sometimes? I think it does. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So all of this setup, well, not all of it, because of course, guitars and everything doesn't work with MIDI. But actually, like the drum, for instance, can trigger a note on something or maybe a movement in a game. And suddenly you can have your tabs, the rhythm you play, basically, loaded up in some kind of JavaScript code, and suddenly you can play, you can teach yourself how to play drums just by powering MIDI. It's not that hard to build. Well, it's hard to build, but it's possible. And these are just some of the web APIs. There is way more web APIs that we probably don't know, don't use, or not well supported and everything else. And normally, and that's what kind of this talk is about, normally I always say use the platform, use the performance tools you get, use the accessibility tools you get, because it's very important. But sometimes I also say abuse the platform, because sometimes it's also very important to have fun. And I think that's kind of the same view that I have on open source. I used to be very serious in open source and I used to do a lot of work. But actually, it's way more important to just have fun. Because someone, maybe, I made y'all smile. Isn't that the best feeling in the world? It is. So why can't I just upload my code and make y'all smile and have fun? Our job is supposed to be fun. You're already working 8 hours a day. Why do open source for 4 hours a day and make it even more hard? Just have fun. Do something cool, share it with people, and have fun. And I think, in short, that's what my talk is about. Keep the web weird, keep having fun, and thank you, everybody. I'm Elian.